Nostradamus, the life, predictions, and legacy of the famous seer. Nostradamus is a figure who has captured the public imagination for centuries, often regarded as one of the most famous and enigmatic prophets in history. His predictions, many of which are claimed to have come true, are still widely discussed today. His life story is equally as fascinating, full of mysticism, plague, and prophecy. Let's dive deep into the origin, life history, and legend of Nostradamus, as well as the story behind his famous predictions. Early life and origins. Michel de Nostradame, better known as Nostradamus, was born on December 14, 1503, in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, France. He came from a family of Jewish origin that had converted to Catholicism a generation before his birth. His grandfather, who had been a scholar, likely educated him in classical languages, mathematics, and astrology, the latter of which would become central to his life's work. As a young man, Nostradamus attended the University of Avignon, but his education was cut short due to an outbreak of the plague. He later enrolled at the University of Montpellier to study medicine, eventually earning his medical degree. Nostradamus became a respected physician, known for his innovative methods in treating the plague, which was ravaging Europe at the time. The plague and personal tragedy. Nostradamus' medical career was significantly influenced by the plague. He traveled throughout France and Italy, treating victims of the disease. He is said to have developed unconventional but effective methods of treatment, such as hygiene measures, which were revolutionary for his time. However, tragedy struck his personal life. Nostradamus lost his wife and 2 children to the plague in 1534. The loss profoundly affected him, and after their deaths, he wandered across Europe for several years, immersing himself in the study of astrology, mysticism, and occult sciences. Nostradamus the Prophet. By the 1540s, Nostradamus began to shift his focus from medicine to esoteric studies. In 1547, he settled in the town of Solanda province, where he began his work as a prophet. He married a second time and fathered 6 more children. Around this time, Nostradamus began to write almanacs, which contained predictions for the coming year. These almanacs quickly gained popularity, and Nostradamus became known throughout France as a seer. Encouraged by his success, he began working on his most famous work, Les Prophéties, the Prophecies. Les Prophéties and the Predictions. In 1555, Nostradamus published the first edition of Les Prophéties, a collection of 942 quatrains, 4-line verses, written in a cryptic and ambiguous style. These quatrains were intended to predict future events and span hundreds of years. The book was an immediate success, and it cemented Nostradamus' reputation as a prophet. The quatrains in Les Prophéties are notoriously difficult to interpret because Nostradamus used a mix of French, Latin, Greek, and Provençal, and often relied on metaphorical language. Many believe that he deliberately obscured his writings to avoid persecution by the authorities, especially the Catholic Church, which was wary of anything that appeared to dabble in the occult or heresy. His predictions covered a vast range of topics: natural disasters, wars, the rise and fall of leaders, and apocalyptic events. Some of the most famous predictions attributed to Nostradamus include: 1. The rise of Napoleon. Many Nostradamus enthusiasts believe that his quatrains predicted the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, one of France's greatest military leaders. Nostradamus referred to a figure he called an emperor born near Italy, which some interpret as Napoleon, born in Corsica, which was close to Italy. 2. The French Revolution. Nostradamus is also thought to have predicted the French Revolution. In one of his quatrains, he refers to the common folk rising up, overthrowing their rulers, and the subsequent bloodshed, events that strongly resemble the Revolution of 1789. 3. World War II and Hitler. One of the most famous predictions associated with Nostradamus is believed to foretell the rise of Adolf Hitler. Nostradamus wrote about a leader coming from the depths of Western Europe with the name Hister, which some believe is a reference to Hitler. He also predicted great conflict and suffering in Europe, which some say corresponds to World War II. 4. The death of King Henry II. Perhaps one of the most precise predictions attributed to Nostradamus involved the death of King Henry II of France. In 1559, King Henry died in a jousting accident when a lance pierced his eye. Nostradamus had written that a young lion would overcome an older lion in combat, and that he would die a cruel death, which some interpret as foretelling Henry's fate. 5. 9/11 and modern events. In more recent times, some of Nostradamus' quatrains have been linked to the 9/11 attacks in New York. One quatrain, in particular, mentions two steel birds crashing into towers, which is interpreted as the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. 6. Future predictions. There are still hundreds of prophecies from Nostradamus that people believe are yet to unfold. His quatrains are so ambiguous that they are often interpreted in hindsight to fit events after they have occurred, making it difficult to ascertain how many of his predictions have genuinely come true. Nostradamus' later life and death. As Nostradamus' fame grew, he became a trusted advisor to some of the most powerful figures of his time. He was consulted by Catherine de' Medici, the queen consort of King Henry II of France, who asked him to create horoscopes for her children. His role in the royal court further solidified his reputation as a prophet. Nostradamus continued to write and publish his predictions until his death. He reportedly predicted his own death, writing, "On the eve of his death, Nostradamus told his secretary that he would not see the sun rise again." He died on July 2, 1566, at the age of 62. The legend and legacy of Nostradamus. Nostradamus' reputation as a prophet has only grown since his death. His cryptic quatrains have been the subject of intense scrutiny, and believers continue to find parallels between his writings and world events. Criticism and skepticism. Despite his fame, Nostradamus has many critics. Skeptics argue that his predictions are so vague and ambiguous that they can be interpreted to fit almost any event. Some also point out that many of the prophecies attributed to him have been misunderstood or mistranslated. Moreover, scholars note that his predictions were influenced by classical sources and historical events. Nostradamus was well read in history, astrology, and the Bible, and many of his quatrains echo ancient prophecies rather than predicting anything new. Conclusion. Nostradamus remains one of the most fascinating figures in the realm of prophecy and the occult. His life story is a blend of science, mysticism, and tragedy, and his predictions have intrigued generations. Whether one believes in the accuracy of his visions or not, the legend of Nostradamus endures as a timeless piece of historical and cultural intrigue.